Hello everyone, so we're back with coverage of the Lebanese Chess Championship. So yeah, let's get going with round 4. So it starts out with knight f3, d6 by Dr. 1000 IQ against Mr. Samir Salman. So they played d4, knight f6. Okay, and now speaking a bit about this opening. This formation is known as the weight Tartakover defense. Usually you're able to get some freedom for your light squared bishop, which is rather rare for defenses against d4, but that's one of the primary points. Another point is to be able to push through e5, so that's also very important. Now here Dr. 1000 IQ, or Akram, he plays bishop g5, which is kind of like a Tory attack. Now the Tory attack proper arises from not necessarily this move order, but it arises here, and this is the Tory attack. If you compare it to this position, you notice that it's the d pawn instead of the e pawn, and this makes for some important differences. But white in general has kind of the same ideas. He has this e4 break or e4 push that gains space, gets a pawn duo in the center. Yeah, it's very similar in ideas at least, but of course it's a very different opening. Playing the Tory attack and the Tory-like idea against the weight Tartakover, it's entirely different, but yeah. Okay, so knight b d7 is played. The reason is that black doesn't want to see any capture like this, doubling pawns either way. They want to be able to, after knight b d7, meet bishop takes g5, bishop takes f6 with knight takes f6. Okay, white plays knight b d2, preparing e4, c5, breaking in the center, adding pressure to the center. e5 is also, I guess, a possibility. So c5 and c3, just maintaining solidity in the center. An alternative is of course e3, but it's not in the spirit of the position because you want to play e4. So c3 was played, and now g6 is tried. I think this is this can be played, but I think inserting c takes d4 is more prudent, because after c takes d4, now you offer some kind of symmetry in the position. Here the position is more like a bit asymmetrical and white has their chances, but after you take and take back here, now this open c file, both sides can make use of it, lots of trades will occur, and that probably means black is closer to equalizing. Okay, but g6 is not such a huge issue. Actually, yeah, g6, actually, from the move sequence in the game, g6 is a bit questionable, because you'll see what happens from the move sequence. Maybe I should be more critical about g6. Okay, so just look at the move sequence. What white played is perfect. He plays e4, standard plan. While having said A, having said g6, black has to say B, which is bishop g7. So yeah, e5 now, that's the point. Takes, knight g4, and now e6. And yeah, this is basically breaking apart all of the pawn structure for black. It is a pawn sacrifice, but it's a very good pawn sacrifice. So yeah, if we return back, basically after g6, all of this entire sequence was almost forced. Of course, after e4 you don't have to play bishop g7, but it's obviously one of the best moves. Maybe there are some improvements here along the way. Perhaps e5 can be considered here, I'd imagine so, but yeah. So g6 I think just was a bit too slow. Taking, and then taking, and now maybe g6 or playing something else would make more sense. Yeah, so okay, let's go back, and now this happens, and yeah, this is a rather bad position for the black pieces. Now white plays bishop c4, standard, just attacking this pawn, but an improvement was queen a4, a very strong move. The point is that you pin this knight, so there's no trickery with this kind of thing happening, and you also, attack this knight. So the knight has to move, it goes here, and now you play bishop d3, you have this queen h4 swinging over idea, knight c4 to get a powerful knight on e5, castle, get your rooks in the center, and this looks like a very strong position for white. By the way, here this might be possible, but you kind of run into something like this. Okay, So bishop c4 was tried, but now this allows knight d e5, and to be honest, a strange move here is played. I myself would probably save the bishop pair, but of course we're afraid of this idea, and then we probably have to take. Not necessarily, but yeah. And yeah, this is still good for white. You have to take because f2 is hanging. You can't go here. They wouldn't. If they take b2, maybe that would be alright, but this is a bit problematic. Or probably with this knight. Anyway, so yeah, I myself would have probably played bishop e2, and maybe gone for like queen e2, or castles. Castles is another try. The point is that if black just castles, we have a game from here. We can probably now play bishop back, or maybe bishop b3. But if knight takes c4 is played, trying to trade queens, which is something we really don't want, because this endgame, okay, it's probably still better a bit for white, because these doubled pawns are really terrible, and this bishop is not really going to be out of the game anytime soon. But in general, we don't want to trade queens, so a smarter way would be queen a4 check. Again, these two knights are kind of being, one of them is being x-rayed by the queen, so bishop d7, and we take with the queen here, and we take c5. And yeah, this is we regained the pawn, and this is just a better position for white. So going back, h3 I consider a strange move. The reason is because this trade will occur anyway, the one on c4. So like if knight takes c4 occurs here, and we play the same line, we've kind of lost the tempo here. If we compare this position, which is the same position we looked at, compare it to this one. And this one you're castled instead of playing the semi-useless h3 move. So so h3 basically loses a tempo. If they go for the correct line, which is knight takes c4 here, and we check again because we don't again want to trade queens, so we check, and they block and go back, and we take this basically free pawn. And now, of course, white is better here. These pawns are really stupid, but you know, black has strong bishops now, perhaps bishop c6 at some point. And yeah, we're not castled, so black will even castle before we do. So yeah, that's not a good idea. So h3 kind of loses the tempo, and now Samir does not reply in the best way. Instead of taking the bishop, which is the really strong bishop, so I don't get why it wasn't taken. Instead, he took the knight. And after takes here, he goes knight e5, aiming to take the bishop, but unfortunately there's a mini tactic, I want to say, where you just recover the b7 pawn. Okay, this should still be quite good for white. Yeah, it's quite good for white, of course. So yeah, black kind of made a mistake here by if we return here, playing knight takes f3 check. Okay, so all of this happens, takes. Yeah, of course you can't take because GG. So takes with the knight, and queen takes a7. While we're at it, we take a pawn. Our queen, of course, will not be trapped. We just escape wherever, probably here. Actually, maybe f3 is better. Yeah, and we're fine. So rook takes b2 was played. There are a lot of tactics, of course. This is being threatened. Some of this, maybe at some point. And just an annoying move, but actually maybe rook takes b2 was not the best try. The best try was probably queen c8, with the idea of going rook a8, queen a6, queen c6, attacking g2, getting the queen active. Instead, rook takes b2 can be met by the very strong castles. Yeah, the point of castles is to just get knight c4 in, and you know, get your rooks in the game, and yeah, black will be under a lot of pressure. Instead, knight e4 is played, again not castling, and now queen b6 basically equalizes, because you're forced to trade basically. Queen a8 check doesn't really help, you can just block. And now castles, and knight a4, and this pawn really cannot be defended quite well. He tries rook a b1, aiming to get some checks on the back rank, so maybe we can pick up the rook. Bishop e3 was an alternative, but it basically amounts to the same thing. So this position is just a draw. If you move this, maybe I take here. And if we move this guy, What do we play? Rook fc1. fc1. I guess you don't really have, you can just play like king f7 or something. Let's check a bit with the engine. Play c4, king f7, alright? Yes, okay. It goes back to king f7. See guys, we don't need an engine when we have the chess brain. Okay. Yeah, so this is just a draw. He maybe wanted to make use of this, but of course this bish is protecting this rook. Okay. Yeah, this is just the draw. So actually a very well played game by both sides. There were some inaccuracies, some mistakes, of course. White could have made better use of the advantages. Black made some mistakes. But yeah, overall quite a nice game. Okay, we move on. Actually, okay, do I want to leave this game till the end? Yeah, let's leave this game till the end. Let's go to the Najjar crush. Okay, Najjar here, really, he's been playing e4, kind of switching from d4, reinvigorating himself at 50 plus years of age. He's almost 53, 55, I think. Yeah, he's been like basically relearning chess. Of course, he knows a thing or two or a million about e4. But he's been a d4 player for a very long while, positional and all of that. But now he's really switching to e4. I love it. Okay, so he plays e4, g6 is tried by Masarani. As we said, he loves fianchettoing. f4. We go into this kind of Grand Prix kind of setup. I won't talk a lot about the intricacies of the opening because really there aren't that many. Okay, there are some, but you know. Okay, h3, very nice move. I love this. Preventing bishop g4, preventing knight g4. Also perhaps preparing g4 at some point, and combined with this kind of stuff, you get a nice attack against these this fianchetto position. So a6 is tried. You know, just perhaps hinting at b5, and now queen e1. I think a3 and a4, just leaving some room for this bishop, are a bit better, but queen e1 is okay-ish. b5 is tried, bishop b3, and now b4. Okay, here there are some improvements I found. The improvement is just playing e6, so that now you can kind of continue with this b4, a4, a3 stuff, a4 stuff. And at some point d5 might also be an idea for black, and this bishop b7 might support a d5 break at some point. Now something we have to wonder about is knight a5. Why is this not working? Just winning this very strong bishop, that would be tragic. The tactics do work out for white though, because after e5 white is basically winning. Let's look at some lines. So knight takes b3. There's the possibility here of simply playing takes, and after we take here, taking here with a nasty fork. Queen has to move out of the way. We promote with check, and we move here, and this knight might be lost. And yeah, this should be basically winning for white. After knight takes b3, a safer option is simply to take back, and after this knight moves, we can take a pawn here, which is rather nice. Remember, there's this. So knight takes b3 really does not work for two reasons. Instead of the black knight just moves, or maybe to d7, doesn't really matter, we have bishop d5, making use of this attack on the rook. And now if bishop b7, we just take, and yeah, this knight here, it's kind of misplaced, and we can just continue on our merry way. Knight e4 ideas, maybe even g4. Yeah, white is just better. So after bishop b3, knight a5 would be a poor move, even though you might think you're winning the bishop pair, or the very strong bishop at least. And e6 is an improvement. Instead b4 was played, and after knight e2, b4 is okay-ish, but you have to follow it up correctly. You have to play a5 here. The point is again to just push a4 and annoy the bishop. For example, if white must play a3 here to escape, or to give his bishop some breathing room. If they do not, if they play knight g3, Then a4, bishop c4, e6, preparing d5. This will be very, very annoying for white. So knight e2, knight d7. This is a very questionable move because you're making this bishop even stronger. Now you don't have any of this bishop coverage over the light squares. So f5 can be played very freely. The point is to defend with knight d e5, but now quite simply white takes here, making use of this very strong bishop, and the attack will be brutal. Actually, an improvement over f takes g6 is bishop d5, just planting the bishop here. The point is that after some, for example, taking here, this would make this bishop a bit passive, so that's not so good. And if e6, this doesn't really work for tactical reasons. We just take here. If this is taken, we just take here and can take back, and yeah, this is easily winning. Up a piece. Yeah, so here, yeah, it's just easily winning. So bishop d5 was perhaps a bit of an improvement. Just make this bishop passive, or at least, you know, after bishop d5, you might wonder about this line instead. But yeah, this line is also, putting the bishop here is not so good as well, because now this bishop has free reign over here, and there's no bishop counteracting these light squares. So that's another concession that black would have to make. Instead, f takes g6 is played, and that's also a fine move. Knight takes f3 check, g takes f3, rook takes f3. You could of course not play with that, but I mean, you could of course just take back if you wanted to, but there's also this to contend with and lots of pressure. So he just decides to remove the knight and takes back like this. Of course, f takes is impossible. So let me remove that arrow actually, in case some people think I actually suggested that. So h takes g6, and now queen h4, just the standard attack here, nothing to look at. Maybe this, maybe some of that, maybe some of this. So knight e5 is tried, very similar to knight e5 is c4 takes and knight e5. Instead, knight e5 is tried, rook f2, and now something very similar, c4. Bishop takes c4. I might have preferred taking like this, but okay, I think bishop takes c4 makes more sense. You do give up the bishop, but you have some good activity in return. Now here I don't get why bishop e6 was not played. This basically wins the pawn. You can't play this, of course. That's an entire rook. So I don't get why bishop e6 wasn't played. There's bishop g5, of course, attacking this square, but there's f6, we go back, and now you can take. White should still probably be a bit better here. They're equal on pawns, they don't have the bishop pair, but they have a strong attack, these pawns, as well as this kind of square. These make for a weak impression, but still black should be fine. Instead they tried queen c7, which is rather bad, because now there's just bishop h6, and you really can't move your bishop. You just lose this, and you know, thank you very much, checkmate. So queen takes c4 was the idea, but now we just take here, and queen f6 check will be very nasty. Again, they should have tried to defend with queen e6, and of course we take here. No, of course not. We just move out of the way. We don't want to trade pieces when we're attacking. Queen takes e4, and this position again should be maybe equal. White is of course much, maybe a bit better. I don't know, but yeah, yeah, white is a bit better. Maybe to no, it's not much better. It's white is a bit better in that position. Instead, queen c5, and now white is definitely almost winning. Check, king g8, rook here. Some nasties like this are threatened at some point. So black tries to develop. Knight g3, the attack is coming. Oops. And actually this does become a line in one of the variations. Rook a8, and now actually knight f5 could have been played, but I get why Najjar didn't play this, and this is a very non-human type of move. The point is that after you take, there's a forcing series of checks that basically win. Check, and here, yeah, the crazy king h1. And the point is just to get the rook out of the pin. So rook f4 here, trying to trade queens, but of course we don't allow that. Check, check, and now taking here. And yeah, there will be the series of checks that will basically win. But yeah, this is almost impossible to see because he had to find the really brilliant king h1. So he just goes out of the way, and now he prepares some of that stuff. But unfortunately here, Masarani had queen e5 very simply, pinning this knight and asking the queen, do you want to trade? And if it doesn't trade, for example, goes queen h4, there is just bishop takes e4, and yeah, black is just recovering the pawn. Or actually, yeah, he's recovering the pawn, and this is fine. So I don't get why this wasn't played. Instead, bishop takes e4, and now the game is basically lost. Rook f4. Intending, of course, like, let's say the bishop moves here, we just go here. And Chekos Ematos is coming. So queen takes c2 was tried, but yeah, this isn't really helping. This is a nice tactic, of course. The point being, yeah, we just take. You take me here, I'm up a rook, thank you very much. This is probably the best technique. So queen takes f2, he takes here, and now he's just up a piece. And yeah, he converts duly. So some defensive chances missed here by Masarani, but yeah, it's okay. Najjar really attacked really well, so it's difficult to fault him. Let's take a look at the Habash game. Okay, yeah, here we can find slight improvements. So this kind of reverse Grand Prix is played. I myself play this, so I should know a thing or two about what I'm talking about. So knight f6 here is tried, and yeah, here d4 is a very good way to play for white. This was played, by the way, by Nakamura against Dubov against Nakamura. And actually Nakamura won with black, which was a very nice game, especially for me because I played this as black. I don't think it was the exact same line. I think g3 wasn't inserted there. Yeah, but anyway, so this is the way to play. Basically, here you play d4, and you can find a lot of games here. Well, not a lot, but yeah, you can find some games here. I won't talk about the theory here. Of course, d4, there are a lot of things to consider here with takes and stuff like that. Anyway, e3, this is rather bad. This is rather bad because I have to say there are basically two rules, or two rules. I meant to say one rule. There's basically one rule when you're playing this system as white, as black. Whether or not you can play e4. If you can play e4 and get control over the square, you're doing quite fine. So here e4 would be a very strong move. Knight h4, of course. But yeah, here I guess we just go d5, protecting this and attacking the pawn, stuff like that. We should be doing quite well. Actually, let me see if d5 is the bishop b4 is recommended. Is d5 bad? No, d5 should be fine as well. Yeah, low depth, I know, but okay. Okay, so instead d5 immediately was tried here. C takes, knight takes, and now white just had the option of this, adding a lot of pressure here. E4 is far less effective now because of this. Instead he played d4, and again black had the option e4. Remember, in this reverse Grand Prix against the English, when you can play e4, play it. So bishop b4 here instead, and now just bishop d2. Again e4 is an option. And e takes d4 is also another option, because you get a lot of activity here. If white wants to fianchetto, he has to contend with rook e8 check. So instead bishop takes c3 is played, and this is rather inexplicable because you help white fix their pawn structure, and yeah, okay, this bishop is temporarily here, but white has the bishop pair, they're able to play this later on. It's quite nice for white. And now finally e4 is played, but this is very badly mistimed because now you lack the dark squared bishop. So basically what you're doing is this bishop, it's kind of being fixed against these pawns, so this is a rather bad idea. Okay, knight h4 is played, castles, and now a3. A rather strange move. c4 is actually can be played. I think a3 was designed to block this knight d before, but we just played d5 here and we win a piece. Thank you very much. This check is not really helping. Takes, and thank you for the piece. So I guess a3 was designed against that, or I don't know. I can't really see any other reason for a3. Anyway, knight f6 was played here, just, you know, kind of getting out of the way of c4, and knight g2. This is a very standard maneuver. In the main line of this opening, this maneuver occurs very frequently. You just put this, and push the pawn as well, and bishop h3 stuff, and you got a lot of pressure as white. So knight g2 was played, a5, knight f4. Okay, the h4 might have been inserted, but it gets inserted now anyway. h4. Of course, black is not really interested in playing this. Some of my games I've played this, but there's always this French-like idea of playing this. Why do I call this a French-like idea? Now, yeah, in the interest of learning some thingamajigs, let's go to the French. I didn't intend to show you this, but yeah, let's go for this. I think I want it to be from the advanced line. Yeah, this might be taking too much time, I'm afraid, if I don't remember it correctly. Yeah, so knight f3. Which line is what I'm talking about really apparent? Let's play this line. Play this. Is it in this line? You could see it in this line. If g4 is played. The point is, I want you to see, like, when white plays g4 in the French. Okay, let's say they play g4 here. There's always knight h4 thanks to the queen defending, and it's not a problem for black. Many hyper-aggressive white players like playing g4 and kind of annoying black. But it's not really a problem. Of course, by the way, bishop g5 does not work because of le tactico. So yeah, this is what I meant by a French type of idea. So here, g5 is fine because we have knight h5. So this is this French type of idea. Anyway, king h8 and now h4. Okay, kind of blocking this g5 stuff. Knight e7. These are all very normal moves. c4, c6. You block the square. And bishop c3. Zoom. b5. Very nice idea, to be honest. The point is that takes is met by this, and we gain a very strong square. This is very professional play by Mr. Muhammad. Just gaining control of these squares. But instead, actually, Abdulaziz plays something good, which is h5. Something very interesting was a clearance sacrifice over here, d5. Just sack a pawn and get this really strong bishop. Now, this should be a good move, but in classical it's difficult to make if you really can't see the... In blitz you might make this in a second, but in classical it's a bit difficult to make because you might not be able to correctly foresee the consequences. So, let me just get this out of my hand. So yeah, so this isn't easy to make in classical. Okay, so h5 was tried, takes, and now we get the d5 square, bishop b2, maintaining this long diagonal. Bishop d2 might be an alternative, of course. The reason is that this bishop here will get attacked by some of this and some of that. And actually, after bishop b2, queen b6 was an improvement for black, just attacking the bishop. Of course, you have to contend with this, and you might not like this, but maybe even rook b8. The king still isn't castled. If we castle, we can play something else. So if castle occurs here, can just get out of the way. Actually, like, white isn't even threatening anything. The only thing they can do is bishop a1, and this would just be a trade on b1. So if black does something like this, let's say, of course bishop c3 will run into knight takes c3, this will run into queen takes b1, and this will also run into queen takes b1 if we so desire. It's not necessary because we give white the open file, but we could play this if we want to. So yeah, anyway, that was another idea. Instead, okay, knight takes f4 was played, g takes f4, This might be seen as kind of weakening white's pawn structure, but honestly this only helps white. You're never really going to be playing this because thank you very much, or even thank you very much first, I don't know. But yeah, so this kind of is more so solidifying white's control over the position. Now h6 can be tried here just to block white from playing h6, but this is such a bad move to make. So yeah, it's not easy for a human to make. It's a computer move actually. Bishop a6, and now takes, and this clearance sacrifice again could have been tried. Again, these are some of my blitz ideas, but I checked with an engine and they seem to be okay. Okay, rook c1 instead was tried. Takes, and now rook b8. Of course, having control of this square is beautiful. That's why the clearance sacrifice here and just getting the monster bishop is quite nice. But of course, again, if you can't see the consequences correctly in classical chess, if you can't calculate it all out, it's difficult to make this kind of blitzy type of sacrifice. So rook takes c4, rook b8, and rook c2. And a better alternative, I think, is queen c2, just kind of attacking here, and you know, just seems better, more natural. Rook c2 is a bit unnatural. Anyway, rook b3 was tried. Again, h6 was an idea to block white from playing h6, and now white plays h6. And here queen d5 really should be played so that the clearance sacrifice does not occur. Unfortunately, he plays g6, and now the clearance sacrifice is basically GG. Rook d3 is tried. This is pinned. If you take here, actually I should have analyzed this. I guess it's queen a1, or is it rook d2? Let's check with the engine. Bishop takes f6 check. Takes. Okay. It's a simple tactic. Yeah, sorry. Yeah, this king is getting mated due to this pawn, thorn pawn. Okay, so d5, rook d3, and now bishop a1, rook takes d5, and now rook takes c6, adding more pressure. Only way to defend. Takes, and now there's a brilliant move. Absolutely brilliant, phenomenal, crazy. I don't know what to call it. I rarely annotate when I'm analyzing. Because I'm just going to speak about them in the video, but I even annotated this on Leeches. I gave it a double exclamation mark. Queen a2. What's the point? This knight tied down. This queen tying down this king. So with these two combined forces over here, black is completely lost, and white is free to do whatever they want, basically. And even at some point, like something like queen f7 can be a good sacrifice. So yeah, queen a2 basically wins. Here he didn't like castles is okay, not losing or anything, or blowing away the advantage. White is still much better, maybe even still winning. But here black had the chance to play this king g8, and now of course queen a2 is less effective. Queen a2 check, we just probably go here. Okay, is it queen d5 the best here? That's queen d5. Okay, so queen e6 was tried, kind of defending against this check, this queen a2 stuff, but it's less effective because now white has easier play. Rook d1, and now king g8, kind of marking time, but yeah, this won't be very effective. I just speed through the game a bit. Yeah, well, black is just completely lost. There's no chance. And here maybe the only chance was rook d8, but you're just delaying the inevitable. Thanos. Rook d3, and now a nice checkmate. Check. All of this is forced, by the way. This is forced checkmate. Wow, queen c7, very nice. Yeah, so this is forced checkmate, rook d7, and now you can even take because of the same idea. And actually after queen takes d7, Mr. Habash resigned. Yeah, there's chances for both sides, obviously, but yeah, I thought the opening he had good chances, Muhammad, and he defended well. Yeah, but finally Abdelaziz with this h4, h5, h6 stuff, Alpha Zero style, he broke through. Okay, next up, this game. That's right, you can see from the scoreboard, from the score here, not scoreboard. You can see from the score here, Wissam got his first draw. And what a draw it was. Let's just take a look at it, guys. It's really quite something. Yeah, this game was rather crazy. Actually, someone said there might have been a notation error or two. I don't know, I just analyzed the game as was given to me. So knight c3, a6, then Najdorf, bishop g5, and we were talking about this knight b d7 being an option instead of e6, and yeah, Salman plays this. Actually, we were talking about Wissam Eid against Joe, if you guys remember from the third round. Here he played queen a5, Wissam did, and we were talking how e6 and knight b d7 are the best moves. Okay, knight b d7 was played. I should remove queen a5, it really doesn't belong here. And queen d2. Okay, this is fine, I guess, but the main lines are bishop c4, f4, queen e2. Yeah, you can go for a lot of stuff. Queen d2 is okay. Queen c7, castles, e6, and f4. Perhaps f3 I like more, but you know, when you play bishop g5, you always go f4. But this kind of f4 is less effective. For very theoretical reasons. Anyway, b5, and now bishop d3. This is quite frankly a terrible move. Bishop d3 is bad in the Sicilian for several reasons, one of which is you block connection of the queen with the knight, and this is the lack of harmony that befalls some players. They make their pieces less harmonious, and that's a big problem that costs them lots of games. That's quite bad. I said several reasons, right? Yeah, one of the other reasons is, of course, this bishop really doesn't defend much here. It can easily be dislodged. It can easily be subject to these knight c5 kind of ideas. So and it's really misplaced because it doesn't really help. Like on e2, at least it supports g4, for example. So it's just misplaced. Instead, an alternative was g4, and after, for example, bishop b7, we just play bishop g2. Do note that we don't friggin' care about this pawn. We just play bishop h3. Some of these sacrifices perhaps are looming, so yeah, we don't really care about that pawn, of course. We just open up the king side. That's why you're playing the Najdorf. Bishop d3, bishop e7, king b1, bishop b7. This is still okay for white. But here you have to play accurately. You have to play g4. Again, Wissam plays rook h g1, preparing g4, but it's not necessary. You can just play g4 here. This pawn really isn't tagging for... Did I include the reason? I thought I did. Oh, I thought I did. Anyway, of course, we can... taking this loses a piece. And if something like b4... I imagine it's knight d5. Again, let us just make sure we load up Stockfish. No, knight d5 is crazy, right? Huh. It says this is bad. G4 might be bad. Should I? Yeah. Oh, yeah, now I remember why I included this g4 in my analysis. I was thinking, this position is just bad for white, by the way, because this pawn is under a lot of pressure, and b4 is coming. So the reason I included g4 was because I wanted to show you guys that rook h g1 is a waste of time. If you want to play g4, just play it without playing rook h g1. Yeah, anyway, so rook h g1, b4, and you know, goodbye pawn. Not currently, because currently there will be problems on e7. So if this happens, yeah, the black will not enjoy this, even though something like this happens in the game. Okay, so queen a5, good move, b3, and now the principled move is knight c5, asking questions for this pawn, asking questions for this knight. So knight takes c5, queen takes c5, g4 now is also a try, but now we can just castle. Crazy, I know, but you have to bear with me. Sometimes in the Najdorf, especially this bishop g5 and kind of Najdorf, this bishop is kind of blocking white's attack with g5. So black kind of slows down, well, white himself slowed down his own attack by playing this bishop g5. Of course, this is a line and everything. I'm not like just saying this line is bad or anything. But I mean that white's attack is slowed down, so black can afford to castle, and his counterplay is quite quick, of course. We already have some nice dark squares to work with. So this is fine. Instead of queen takes c5, by the way, d takes c5 is an interesting option. The only problem is you have to contend with this. We really don't want to take like this, because then castling becomes quite a problem, and we're really not going to castle queenside. Then we won't be getting an attack against white, so not what we want. Instead, bishop takes f6, but now this runs into e5, and now we're going to get a lot of play. Bishop e7, and yeah, this position should just be fine for white. I don't see why not. We just move the knight, for example, here. They are completely fine. Instead of c takes d4, we just take, and this is also again fine for white. Actually, maybe even white can be set to stand a bit better, because they have some of this, some of that, and this pawn is rather weak, and we have to take here at some point, and that's not so good. So going back here, knight c5 was definitely an improvement. Instead, taking here was tried, and this is again a bit bad. Now the point of taking here now instead of before, wait, yeah, so here we looked at this line taking, and of course here taking would lead to this kind of stuff which we didn't want to see. So instead bishop takes, and now the problem, of course you can't take here because the point is this will be coming at some point, and this is hanging, and yeah, all of this is bad. But instead here white has f5, and this is very problematic for black, because he's really controlling the f5 square. Of course you can't play something like this. This would be rather crazy. Let's see if I can find the concrete tactical reason. I guess just no, not taking. Probably some of this. Let's see the engine, low depth engine. Rook g f1. Okay, it wants to attack this square. Okay, is what I suggested bad? No, it's not. Ah, it's getting better. Low depth again, but yeah, you get the idea. Okay, bishop takes d3, f takes e6 is the point, and now this position should be okay-ish for white. Probably black is still a bit better, but this is rather weak, and yeah. Instead he played rook g e1, and now just takes, and rook c8, and black has a big initiative. He tried queen f3. I don't really know what to suggest. Position looks really bad. Maybe something as meek as h3 to try to prepare g4 or something. Maybe, I don't know. Anyway, queen f3, queen d5. Big jumbo blunder, but Wissam didn't see this blunder either. Takes here was the option. Takes, moves, and now takes. And now Wissam might have stopped his calculations and thought he lost the knight, but of course you recover the piece here, and white is basically winning. Yeah, he's up a pawn, he has a nice bishop. This piece is weak. He has some nice rooks potentially. So yeah, this should be winning. Okay, queen takes d5 instead. Knight takes d5, and now knight f5 would have been very strong, making use of this Schlambanini action. If e takes f5, we have rook takes d5, and yeah, the spin is quite nasty over here. Instead of bishop takes g5, we have this check. We pick up the exchange. The story doesn't end here. There's maybe this. No, this would lose the knight. There's maybe this. But yeah, it's of course winning for white. We have a clear exchange, and the king safety for black is quite bad. Instead, bishop takes e7 here was played. Knight takes e7, and now the rather strange knight b2. I guess more More prudent would have been... No, knight b2, he wants to relocate the knight. I get that. It's not really that strange, but... I don't know, you'd think in this position there's something more incisive. Maybe even something as silly as this, just to... Yeah. I don't know. Maybe even g4. Anyway, knight b2 and now d5. This is a very bad move, and Wissam really exploits this. Knight d3. You just give up the e5 square for no good reason. More patient play, like with knight b6, preparing maybe knight d5, one of them to d5, or castle, simply getting out of the way. These are more prudent options. Instead, this d5, really, that's just throwing caution to the wind, and now knight d3 is able to make use of the square, even gets in f5. And now something really funny happens. This is why we said it might be a notation error. Yeah, I don't get why rook takes d4 was not played. Maybe he thought knight takes f7 was even better. That's possible. Knight takes f7 is still winning, but you have to follow it up correctly. Rook h8 is played. Here maybe knight b5 is an option to try to trick black, to try to trick white, but it's not really going to change much. Rook h e8, and now again Amidst tactic. Takes. Thank you for the piece. Instead, king b2 was played, which is okay. Yeah, and now white is not up anything. This is basically equal if you play c3 here. You have to play c3 to kind of just, you know, reduce black's queenside space, because here black has some nice queenside space. So we play c3, it's basically a double attack, not a double attack, but it's kind of having two focal points, so you're able to just trade this, and now white is fine. Instead here rook c1 was played, which is rather passive, and he shuffled the rooks a bit. Okay, we'll just keep going. There were some points, for example here knight e5 could have been tried. Cute tactic. The point is of course this, and this is actually even better for white. Instead he went knight g5, but this allows some nasties to occur. Rook f1 might have been a better idea to try to infiltrate on the 7th rank. Instead knight f3, and yeah, this is just better for black. But it's a draw, and actually Wissam defends splendidly here. But here, instead of playing rook g3 check, which would just be a draw, you know, you keep checking, and if the king moves out, for example here, we just, whoops, we just take the pawn. He played rook g8, and this wasn't played. Yeah. I don't know. Maybe a notation error. I do not know. Okay, so rook h2. And yeah, this is just a draw. Actually, Wissam plays this very nicely. We're not going to talk about rook endgame technique here. Just a draw, just a draw. Actually, here, this is no longer a draw. He should have tried rook h6, so that you're able to check whenever you want. So they played king e2, and this loses due to rook b3 actually, because now you have g. But actually king e2, rook b8, and the game was agreed to a draw. I don't know if they were just moving about and they knew this was a draw, or so they made a random move and none of them noticed, or if this was another notation error, they didn't actually play these moves. I don't know. Anyway, congrats to Wissam, he's on the scoreboard now, and against a quite strong opponent, 1930. So that's quite good for Wissam. Topsy-turvy game, to be sure. Crazy game. Okay, let's move on to the Joe game. Joe against Antoine Assis. Yeah, so it was... Actually, one thing I want to say about this game is, okay, Antoine Assis is a really strong player. Okay, let's watch this game. So we get to see a Richter Rouser arising from the classical Sicilian. This is all theory, and now bishop takes f6. It's on the fringes of theory. More common is bishop h4. I like this much more. Just keep pressure here, keep your bishop pair. Bishop takes f6, queen takes f6. This line is really, to be honest, quite equal for black, and you know, against a Sicilian expert like Antoine, you don't really want to do this stuff. He played knight b3. This is a fine line. King b1 is an alternative, but it runs into this kind of stuff. Sorry, king b1. Sorry. King b1 is not an alternative. It's a bad move. Knight b3 is possible, and knight f3 I think is the more common move. But king b1, why is this bad? Because you're basically able to trade queens. And yeah, this kind of endgame, remember, in the Sicilian, the endgame is better for black. And this is actually the theme of this game, basically. So the Sicilian, the endgame is better for black. As simple as that. Black gets a lot of activity. And here they have the bishop pair, of course. So this is an even worse kind of version of the Sicilian, because you gave up the bishop pair as white. Very early on, by the way, move 10. You gave up the bishop pair, move 10. So yeah, I should watch out. By the way, an interesting alternative is takes, and taking here, winning the pawn. But this is a bit unnecessary because you keep queens on the board. So there's some counterplay for white here. This should be winning for black. Knight d5 is a cute sacrifice. You see these sacrifices in the Smith-Morra and the Sicilian, the open Sicilian a lot. But yeah, black should still be better here. But yeah, why go for this when you can just go for an easy endgame with the bishop pair? Okay, so knight b3 was played, and now queen d8 back. If, for example, bishop e7, this would be quite bad because of e5. That's why it's important to get your queen out of the way. Queen g6, bishop d3, you move the queen, thank you very much. And here I win a piece. Of course, bishop takes h5 is a bit easier because you're able to get into an endgame a piece up instead of being with the queens on the board. But both win. Keeping the queens on the board might even win quicker. Yeah, so this is one sample line, of course, but after e5, basically black is losing. Of course, you can't take here because of check. Yeah, so that's why queen d8 must be played, returning the queen, getting out of this e5 stuff. King b1, b5, and now these ideas are looming for white, and Joe plays both basically. So he plays g4 here. I think a potential improvement is knight e2 theoretically. The point is to preempt this b4 stuff and then be able to play this. We'll see this also a move later. By the way, here I found a game by Jules Moussard, who's a very strong French player. He played queen e3 here. We'll just take a look at the game very quickly. I'm not even going to talk about it. But we got to see some nice themes in the Sicilian. And yeah, these tactics are a bit crazy, and actually Jules won here. His opponent resigned. But yeah, okay. just for your reference. You might want to take a look at this on your own. Anyway, g4 was played. Fine move as well. I just like knight e2 more. Bishop e7, simple development. Now, no time for b4 now. We develop first. And now here knight e2 is an interesting option. Queen b6 we can meet with h4, and we can get this show on the road. And with b4 now, see, we moved the knight out of the way, so we kind of gained the tempo here to be able to play some of this stuff. And here we don't let black castle with this check. I'm moving a bit quickly. So we take here, and this basically forces, well, it doesn't force, but black is enticed to take here on e4. And now we can check, there's no way to block, so you have to move out of the way. And rook h1, and white has sacrificed a piece, but this king is not very happy, and this can come at any moment. So yeah, this was an alternative as well. Anyway, Joe went for h4 directly, and this runs into b4, knight e2, a5, knight d4, getting out of the way of a4. That's why he uses this knight and not this knight. Oops, not this knight. Still, white's position is completely fine. Here he plays bishop g2. And now was an important moment. After rook c8, he plays e5. Okay. Here actually, after rook c8, I'll go into the other variation in a bit. After rook c8, he had the option to play this very strong idea, g5. The point is just breaking up the king side, and g6 is coming. If a4, we can play bishop h3 again, maximum pressure on the queen side. Queen c5, for example, wanting to go here, we're able to play g6, and after f5, this position should actually be slightly better for white. Now f5 is rather crazy, but it's supported by the bishop and the queen, so that's one of the points of queen c5 as well. And so instead of rook c8, which would have allowed g5, black had the option of taking, and now pushing through with a4. And now after something like e5, attacking this guy, sneaky bishop, d5, f5, bishop c5, hf1, a3. This position should be a bit better for black, maybe much better. Let me go through this a bit more slowly. f5, we kind of want to take and open up the position so that black really isn't able to castle. Something a bit similar happens in the game. Bishop c5, this also happens in the game. They attack the d4 square, intending to trade queens. So if you play this, perhaps they have this as an idea. Now this endgame specifically is better for white because they have the strong e-pawn, which is blocking these dark squares and doing a nice job. Yeah, so a3 here can be tried to just really weaken all of the dark squares. Okay, so knight takes d4 was an alternative. Of course, you don't play a4 directly because you kind of give white a tempo. After takes, and knight here. You don't want to lose this bishop because that will lead to nasties with e5. And it's just bad to lose this bishop because also you go into an opposite card bishop endgame. In the middle game, this is favoring the side that's attacking, but this bishop is actually much stronger than this one. So you have to be careful about that. So that's why here you should take here to not lose this tempo with bishop c6, and instead here you go for a4. Okay, anyway, this wasn't played, rook c8 was played, and again Joe had the option to go g5, but he went e5. And this is actually rather bad. So Antoine took here. Actually, I don't get why he didn't take. Of course, there are a lot of complications here, but here it's basically going to be a pawn at some point. You can castle here. You're not worried about g5 because you can just take. Taking here does nothing. Knight c4, and it's black who's going to be crashing through very, very soon. So here actually you could simply take. Now of course after f takes you don't take immediately because there's this idea intending to take on d7 check. Actually the line doesn't end here. There's bishop a4, you think you won a piece, think again, you move out of the way, and now of course you can't take because of check, but you can castle, and again white really can't do anything here, so they play knight d4, and now we just win this exchange. There are also a lot of complications with this line, you might think. Kind of winning the exchange, but yeah, I leave it up to you to guess why this really doesn't work for white. Okay, so instead he plays knight takes d4, which is the safer option, but after knight takes, Joe had the option himself. Joe plays, actually sorry, it's black to move. Antoine here plays d5. And this is still holdable for Joe if we go f5 here, which he did. Bishop c5, I told you, we saw this in the variation. And now you don't allow the queen trade, which will occur, not now, it doesn't occur, but it might occur. That's the problem. Here you play queen f4. So instead of allowing all of this, again, Antoine should have played takes, and now queen c7, queen e2, and just a4. An alternative is, of course, after taking here, is a4, but this isn't as good because there's knight f5. A4 is not really a good move. You should go queen c7 to protect this bishop, because if you allow a4, now knight f5 comes, hello bish, and bishop b5. There are both options, knight takes e7 and knight d6 check. And if after knight f5, for example, this happens, of course we have a funny mate. This is basically mate. So this is checkmate, and of course otherwise, if we take with the queen, this is checkmate. So yeah, this of course can and will not be allowed. So again, d takes e5 was an option. Instead he allows d5, f5, and instead of f takes e6, queen f4 was quite a strong idea. Aiming just to take with the rook should the need arise, and just you know, adding more of this stuff. Instead takes is very tempting, and now the last mistake of the game, rook hf1 was a way to maintain pressure, but here you just go into a bad endgame. And yeah, remember, this is a losing endgame. Not losing, this is just a bad endgame. If you guys remember, we had one of this, if I can find the line, we had this line where e5 was good, but here it's not so good because of bishop b5, and black gets a lot of activity, and this rook becomes questionably placed, and this pawn becomes quite weak at some point. Some of arrows. At some point, some of these ideas will be quite good for black. Where did we find this line with? If only I could remember where it went into this nice endgame. Was it here? No. Was it here? No. You guys might be screaming at your laptops right now, or your comps. Where was the line? I can't find it. I hate this because I'm kind of annoying you guys by doing this, but I really want to find it. Seriously, it was that far back? Was it here? Was it here? Where was it? Where was the stinking line? Ah, this. Yeah, this is the line. And here it's much better for white because this, okay, I just go here. You don't have the activity that black has in our other line. And white even has the activity himself. And b4 is also hanging. Instead, in the line we looked at, here, b4 is not hanging, black has much more activity, and this pawn might become weak at some point. Yeah, and this is much different than the one we looked at. Okay, so knight b3, and this is basically the final mistake. Antoine here makes no mistakes in the conversion. No mistakes. We're just going to speed through the game. Joe basically undergoes a rough treatment here. And checkmate, unfortunately. Yeah, so brilliantly played game by Antoine. There were a lot of quibbles in the middle game, but yeah, just a brilliant game overall. Not much to discuss, to be honest. Okay, the Mudallal Sayer game. This is one heck of a topsy-turvy game. If you've ever seen a topsy-turvy game, it's this one. Yeah, so let's take a look at it. Starts out as a Scotch gambit. Main line, and now here actually I've seen knight d7 become more and more popular, and it's scoring really well for black, and it's even at very high depths. It's supported by the engine. Okay, Elias goes for knight e4, the standard line, takes bishop c5, castles. This is all theory, I'm not really going to discuss this much. Bishop takes c6, b takes c6 is a far better try. Instead Tarek goes for this, and this is just bad, to be honest, because of the following forced sequence. Not completely forced, but kind of. Yeah, now you can see this has gone tragically wrong for white. Mate is threatened. Okay, you might be up a piece temporarily, but you're going to lose it after queen f3, queen takes a8. And yeah, now, of course, white is up a pawn, but like, what's this king safety? What's this? What are these pieces? What are these pieces doing? Nothing. Yeah, exactly. So knight c3 is a way to defend, get one piece out at least. Instead he tries bishop f4, get the other piece out, but knight c3 is a bit superior because at least you get some of this stuff and you're able to trade. Bishop takes f2 was tried. Instead, just making use of your rook was interesting because you force b3, which is a kind of move. So bishop takes f2, and now knight c3 was a possibility, intending to make use of the fact that knight takes c3 would run into this, and this endgame is fine for white. And if bishop c5, we can take on d5. Instead he played knight d2, and now he went for bishop b6, Elias did, which is a fine move. But there was this crazy bishop g3, which basically wins a pawn. Almost impossible to see, but yeah, let's see it anyway. Knight takes e4, takes, and now after the knight moves, we take this h-pawn, and yeah, we're winning the pawn. The king isn't here or anything, there's no like rook h1, there's nothing. Black is just up a pawn. Actually here, would he be recovering the pawn? No, he's already up a pawn, yeah. Okay, so bishop g3, bishop takes g3 would run into this fork, and h takes g3 would run into this skewer. So both are not possible. So that's why bishop g3 is so powerful. But it's really difficult to see for a human. So bishop b6 takes, and now queen g3, intending to simply trade queens. Of course that's denied because white's king is very unsafe, so that's a very clever decision by Elias. And now rook e1 is a way to defend a bit. Instead he goes for the crazy queen e2, which runs into king e2. I get he wants to play this and maybe even castle if he's able to by hand, but that's very difficult to arrange. Instead queen d4 is played, and now c3, queen c4 check, king e1 is another way to better defend. Instead he went for rook d1. This runs into queen c4 check, king d2, and now this is basically losing after rook d8 check. You have no way forward. King c1 would run into this, and now bishop f2. And there's no way of preventing this mate. Actually here you'd have to sacrifice the queen by playing queen e3. Okay, so a bit difficult to see this bishop f2 idea with queen check, but okay, that's a very forced sequence. He missed that, so he plays queen takes a2, and now bishop h6, rook d8 check, and he should have went here. And this is about equal, not really equal, but yeah, maybe. White is threatening mate. This pawn will probably be lost. White has some defensive resources. Of course, if check, you don't really go before, but yeah. So that would lose to queen a3 check. Instead, here he went for king c1, and now I seriously, I don't know if this is a notation error or not, but he played rook takes d1. He played rook takes d1 check. Can you guys Adam and Eve it? Can you guys believe it? Yeah, mate was possible. Mate was possible. Mate was possible. Okay, that was not played. Rook takes d1 check, takes, and queen b1 check. I like queen a1 check more because the point is you're able to retreat your queen whenever you want. Queen b1 check, okay, it might seemingly attack more pieces. You attack c2, but after bishop c1, your queen is kind of out of play. It wants to be here. Okay, e3 here, hinting at this check. So queen g4, protecting, threatening, matos. Here black can just go for a draw by playing king f8, and this is a draw. You might think you're escaping the draw with c5, but again this highlights all of these checking squares. And queen if g6, you have e6, e2 check is not really going to be effective. And if f takes e6, queen check, this is another way to make a draw for white. Instead he went queen g5, and now he allows this check. King e1 must be tried. If king takes e2, queen takes c2 check, this is just going to be lost for white. Many checks will be possible. King e1, bishop c5, queen d8 check. Bishop c5 is designed to play bishop f8, and here this kind of position, this is again rather equalish. Instead he played h6. Actually this position, yeah, it should be slightly better for black maybe because of the king safety. Of white's king safety. Okay, he plays h6, and again this is a draw. Check, check. He could have gone Actually, Tariq does not go for a draw, and he gets rewarded for that. He doesn't like draws, and he always likes to play for the initiative and stuff like that. And he gets rewarded for that in this game. This is an alternative to a5. Actually, this would be a winning alternative for black. Yes, your king is in the center, but remember, these are how many? 12 points. 12 points. Remember, in my chess principles series, I say that anything, it's a rule from Andy Soltis. The end game is defined as any position where there are 13 or less material count, the non-pawn material count. So this would be 12 for each side. So this would be 12. So it's less than 13. So this is an end game. And in the end game, the king is completely safe. And this position, of course, this bishop is not really going to attack this king. So this king is completely safe. a5 instead, and now queen g4 check is another way to draw. Now, of course, if takes is met by this. So that's why g6 here was necessary, so that check does not, you're not able to take on g7. Okay, and now a lot of something is happening, but a lot of nothing as well. It's just a draw until here white should have played queen f3. Queen e4 might run into queen a2, and the queen is back to life. This might be bad news for white here, who will see a lot of checks coming their way. Not currently, but at some point. And this becomes a theme basically. Black is always able to play some queen a1 or queen a2 to escape and get the queen into the game and get a draw or maybe even a win. But he doesn't do that, and yeah, this basically loses the game. So here white is making some headway, you could say. Again, he should have tried queen f6 check, because queen c4 again runs into queen a1, and the queen will start its route to escaping. Not currently at least, but you can't really move this because that would allow the queen to escape. So yeah, this is one way. King e8, e6 should have been tried. Instead he goes slowly with queen e2. I guess he's trying to gain time on the clock, but again this allows queen a2 and the queen escapes and black is fine. King e7, maybe even more than fine. King e7, queen f3, king e8, and again here queen c6 check to kind of repeat the position, because really this is the best thing you can do is draw. Queen f1, again allowing queen a2, but that's not played. So king e7, and now b3, very smart idea. Now you have this stuff going on, and queen a2 is now less effective because the queen remains trapped, funny enough. So these checks will be played, and now e6, the winning attempt, but it actually ends up being a drawing attempt, losing attempt, because of this forced sequence. He also, Elias missed e2 check a lot in this game. Okay, instead he took, and now maybe he thought this was a forced draw basically. I guess both of them didn't have much time here. And again here queen a1, and the queen escapes, and it's able to help defend. Again e2 check here, and queen a1. This time we're combining both ideas, e2 check and getting the queen to a1. Instead queen a1 directly, but this loses to the following sequence. And here queen e4 check. I don't get why queen g6 wasn't played, because this wins a pawn rather quickly. Instead queen e4 check, and again here queen g6 check would win the pawn directly, but he played this. And this move is actually quite cute, but also runs into e2 check. King takes, and this is a draw. And queen takes is also a draw. You can't escape perpetual. If you try, you can't. And this would be a way to even start losing. Well, this is still a draw because white still retains the drawing mechanism here. But yeah. Okay, so queen d4 check was tried, but now king e2, and this stuff will be looming. It is now king f8, and now check here. And the point is that the king and the bishop endgame is completely winning. Thank you, thank you. These pawns over here, GG. So instead, Elias decides to kind of resign in a gentlemanly way and gets checkmated. So this is a nice way to resign, to be honest. Yeah, very, very topsy-turvy game. That was rather crazy. And yeah, I just don't know what to say after this game, huh? Yeah, maybe there were notation errors, I don't know. Okay, and now for Dr. 1000 IQ to see the graphs. Where are the graphs? I thought I had, wait, I didn't have computer analysis. Oh, it's the next chapter. Yeah, so Dr. 1000 IQ likes looking at the graphs. Okay, here we have this graph. It's by Dr. 1000 IQ and against Samer. Akram against Samer. And I need to make it a bit lower so you can see the black side. Yeah, and yeah, just a very well played game. Just a very well played game. But Dr. 1000 IQ missed some chances. Tare against Elias, yeah, crazy affair. What else? Najjar against Masarani, yeah, Najjar crush. Habash against Abdulaziz, also a very well played game by Abdulaziz. I'll show you the Eid Salman game. Yeah, but I just wanted to leave this at the end because it's crazy how accurate this graph is for Antoine. He's playing Joe Assad, by the way, who's rated 2450 plus in Blitz on Chess. So I don't know how you can make a graph like that. Antoine is seriously a Sicilian genius. And the Eid Salman game, of course, it's really topsy-turvy as well. So yeah, let me show you guys the standings we have here. Again, I have to change it up a bit. If my alt key, yeah. So Najjar and Assis, they're going to be the front runners. They've already played against themselves. Yeah, and third place I think will be a tough fight between Akram and Joe and Abdulaziz. Of course, anyone can make it. Masarani, Habash, Mudallal, Samer, they all can make it in the fight for third place. I think it's a foregone conclusion to speak about first and second for anyone except for Assis and Najjar. They're just too strong. They're showing their class here. Yeah. So with that, let's see how these results pan out. Maybe I'm completely wrong. Maybe even first place will be by someone other than Najjar and Assis, but that looks unlikely. So let's see how the results pan out. There's a game that's going to be played today, so let's see how that goes. Alright, with that, take care guys. Goodbye.